Hi, welcome to COLLCAST. So the first job that I ever had was, what if podcast started like that with just absolutely no intro? Like I'm the first podcast to have there's no intro. Just so funny. Yeah, I mean, I just want to get into it. The first jobs that I ever had. Well, technically, I worked for my dad because I was the unofficial caretaker, or one of them, of the property, the sítio, as you say in Portuguese. We were the property owners of a property in Brazil. I think it was like 5 acres, something like that, which we turned into a whole soccer baseball field in one. Pool, volleyball field right next to it, volleyball court, playground, game center, chapel, our house, and a second house on that. And I lived there for 3 years. Unfortunately, I didn't get to live there more. The house that we lived in was like an H. So, anyways, that is so much grass to mow. Who mowed that lawn? My dad had his riding lawnmower, which knocked out a third of it, and then Kobe and I would do the other. What's the mathematics there? 2/3. Okay. I left that property. I moved to Oregon. I get my first job. Now, this job is 5 months before I go to film school. So I have a summer at 19 to get my license for the first time. My first job, like official job with like a W-2 and stuff. Live with my brother at the time, who unfortunately had just gone through a divorce, who married a Brazilian, brought her back. They were married for 5 years, and she started working a job and just left anything she had just vowed to in their marriage and caused a real uproar in my family. So living with my brother at that time, I think, was so helpful and comforting for the both of us because we were both in transitional phases. He, in a way, was being demoted, not to put a negative connotation to it, but he was going back into his singleness for a while and figuring out, how do I do that? I didn't expect myself to be here. Stop clicking. What is that clicking? I was in a promotion where I am leveling up. I'm advancing into adulthood, job, college, first car, all that stuff. Really interesting. I am now the age that he was at 27 when I was living with him, which is bizarre to think about. But I got my first job, Abbey Carpet Care. Sean Abbey, my dad, who is friends with Sean. Sean gave me the job. Oh, Abbey Carpet Care. So I worked there for 5 months, 4 months probably. Left on good terms. I worked with Jim mostly. No, I started out with Jim. Started working with Bryce. Is that his name? Bryce Watterson, something like that, out of Montana. He was a youth pastor at a church, and we worked together. He was, mid 20s, and I was 19. So some of the stories from Abbey Carpet Care. There was one time that we, two times that we had to clean up a house that a dude had stepped in his own coloscopy bag, and he was blind, unfortunately, and just spread his own fecal matter all over his carpet, all over his room. And we had to do this twice. And he had, a coloscopy bag, like, I think that's what it's called, but he had stepped in his own thing and spread it everywhere. So that was absolutely revolting, I must say. There was another time that we had to clean a vet's house, he was like Logan mixed with Santa Claus. Logan from Logan. He lived on the third story, so we had to get our hoses and big old machines up to the third story, and we did that by taking what was it? I think we tried the elevators. Just like, all the elevators are going to have to be on hold for us on our hoses, but I don't think that worked. He went upstairs with a rope, tossed the rope down. I tied the rope to the hose. These hoses are super long, and they get really heavy about halfway up. I wish that I could have seen the scene up there of him trying to pull these hoses up, because he described it as having a real a real struggle with it. But anyways, so that was tough. But that was basically all I'm going to report about that job. Next job was not until second year of college. After the first 2 years in one, so technically my third year, but it's really my second year calendar-wise. Something happened, and then Compass told us, that my school told us, don't get a job, at least for the first year. But my schedule opened up. I went into the bachelor's. I wasn't having school nearly as much. We dropped down to 15. The most I had was 18 credits in a semester after the 24 I was doing 3 semesters in a row. I applied on Indeed to a bunch of jobs, but one of them was Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons, they needed a cook, chef, baker, whatever, all the works. Coffee, part-time. I get the job. I work there 2 months, and then I take a vacation. But I told them too late. I went and visited my family back in Brazil. It was end of 2014. No, it was not. It was end of 2015 that I went back to Brazil for 2 weeks without telling Tim Hortons. I got back and realized that I had no more hours on the schedule. I was completely wiped from the schedule when I had just gotten there for my shift. And 2 customers who were regulars commented like, "Oh, I heard you got fired." And I was like, "Really?" Like, I didn't even know. Nobody told me that they had just removed me because they didn't like that I had taken that vacation. And I had told them probably a week before, which, yeah, that was my bad. No excuses. Hated them. Moving on. I go in and get a job at AutoZone, which is like right across the street from Tim Hortons. What was that? But this AutoZone job, I know that I've already talked about on a podcast, so I'm not going to put you through that if you've listened to it. The guy who hired me is actually one of the best bosses I've ever had. Probably still the best boss I've ever had. Shout out to Alex Jones. He was so cool. So, okay. The first day on the job, I show up. I didn't tell this story. And, I'm behind, I'm doing some training on a computer behind a wall that has a bunch of holes in it. Like, it's not really a wall, it's out of, like, metal. And it's a divider, but just a divider. Well, I know that I'm bloated and I have some gastroenteritis. But I want to be quiet, discreet about it. I'm doing the training. It's quiet. And what comes out of me is and total silence after that, with a click of my mouse. I know, I know that they heard it, and undoubtedly shared a glance about it. Like, it was so loud. What the hell was that? I only had that boss for like 4 or 5 weeks, and then he brought in a new boss who I really didn't like, and I tolerated her for 6 months, and then I left. Blocked everybody from... not everybody. I didn't block everybody. But I blocked the managers just so they couldn't contact me anymore. And I just left. No call, no show. Okay, so, I'm approaching the end of my lease in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I am now also completing a summer at Lincoln Lake summer camp. And that is my internship at Compass. So I get an internship at a summer camp as their videographer, contracted for like 12 videos. No, it was 12 weeks. It was May, June, July, part of August, something like that. So I think it might have literally been 12 weeks. At the end of my lease, end of summer camp, those two end like within a week of each other. I now get the opportunity to move to Chicago. So I take it. I take the opportunity, I take the job, I take the housing opportunity that's there. And what I understood it to be, at least the housing situation, was I was going to be rooming with a buddy from college and his friend from high school. And it's going to be us three. Rent is $1,600 between all of us. I get there, and it turns out that my buddy from college got an internship in back like where we did college, like Grand Rapids, 3 hour drive away. And so already that's super different because now it's just me and his buddy. And the job that I got, because I was such a airheaded, it was completely airheaded, because there were 16 different restaurants that I could have gotten a job there at. I'm going to save that for a little bit later. Hold on. Instead, I get a job that's a 20 plus minute drive away. This is not the job that I was offered first to move to Chicago. That was only a gig. Okay, save that for a little bit too. That was a film gig that was filming horse dressage for a weekend, and it was paying really good money for just 3 days of work. Really good money, like a grand. I was like, dude, I'm going to move to Chicago with that job first, and then I'm going to get a bunch of film jobs after that doing the same thing. That's what I projected. I do that gig, can't find anything else. Nothing else. Nobody else is hiring me. I do some training days, but nobody calls me back. I'm running out of money real quick. I get a job at Play and Spin. Play and Spin is a family fun center. I'm not sure if they're still open or not. It's a family fun center. I ran or was part of the team of go-karts. Where, I just drove go-karts kind of all day, testing them. We would rotate out who leads, is on the microphone, reading the instructions, taking purses, setting them aside. A lot of people refuse to give up their purses, and you just be like, well, can't drive. So you had to be really assertive. I was one of the eldest on the team, and I remember getting down to not having a cent. Not having a cent. Did I say what it paid me? It paid me $8.50 an hour. I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking. Because what I ended up doing was I ended up moving back to Michigan when my home is Salem, Oregon, which is on the complete, other end of, not other end of the nation, but kinda. I moved back in with a buddy and his family. They're devout Christians, so it's an environment that I'm used to. So I lived with them for about 11 months back in Michigan, and I got my first kitchen job, which is a job I could have gotten in Chicago just months prior. What it was kitchen was not on my radar. I was going for film. I went thinking film, gigs, acting, improv, Chicago, that's why I'm here. I was not thinking kitchen jobs to make ends meet and survive while I do this thing on the side. I just didn't have that strategy at, what was I? I was 22. I was 22 years old. 22-year-old me. So, yeah, get my first kitchen job. The Wynn Tavern 33. I walk in. I request the manager because I see a sign on the door that says help needed. Need help did. And because I'm there for lunch one day with my buddy. So I go, oh, why don't I just get a job here? Had that thought a little too late. I request the manager. We sit down. I make him laugh a couple times, and I get the job as a dishwasher. He goes, all right, start your Wednesday. So this is a job that asked me to give up all my weekends, pretty much. I was working totally weekends. I do that for 2 months. Now, this kitchen is full of line cooks who are in their 40s, have probably been in up to 3 bands at this point. Love rock and roll from the 70s, 80s, and whatever. One of them is a dude named Dylan, who was drumming one time with his band, which is actually a big band from Michigan, the original founding drummer, and a speaker from up top fell onto his head, completely broke his neck, and he has lost his ability to drum, or at least really can't. It's painful for him. The dude's like 6'3", really, really sad story. But great guy. I love getting to know Dylan. He sold me a lot of weed. Now, the Wind Tavern is owned by three middle-aged men who love sports, they love to drink, and they opened up a bar and grill in a small town. One of the owners, 2 years after they had started the business, and 1 year after I knew him and got the job, close to like my end of the job, just having partied with a bunch of people from the kitchen, as we did often, and he goes, "Yeah, dude, I mean, in 2 years of having this business, I've accumulated $90K in my savings account." And that was 2018 after the summer, so it's been several years since. And he has at least another business, but I think another one on top of that with these same guys. So they're doing well. They made me line cook after 2 months on dish. And line cook is actually a job that it took me being there and doing it again to realize that it is a job I'd already done. I had worked at the fairgrounds for 2 weeks doing fry. I was the fry guy. So I'm there with the baskets of the hot oil and the chicken and the fries and the tots. So that is actually technically the first job that I had with a W-2, working at the fairgrounds the summer after I had just done the play Oklahoma, which I talked about in the last podcast. So it came naturally. Dude, I'm good on fry. I have been on fry on every kitchen job that I've had, so I'm good at fry. I know when to drop, for how long to drop, how much to drop, how much to salt. Dude, I'm a good salter, and I'm a good saucer. I am accurate with my measuring of sauces. I can stop talking like that. But I'm really good at fry. Dude, sometimes it would get to looking like it. You're gonna have to listen to this if you're listening to it, but if you're watching it, then it's a spectacle. But it would be like I was playing basketball. I'd be dropping fry, going into the freezer, spinning around, and like opening, dumping in rushes, like putting a sauce bowl, dumping sauce, plating, handing it over. It became a dance that I loved. The job that I got at Topgolf was the smoothest and best I have ever been on the line. I was good. But me fry on line at the Wind Tavern 33 is like a Padawan to the Jedi that I was at Topgolf. That I do believe. The spinning, the freezers, the sauces, the soups, the drop and fry, the nacho making, the hand and raw chicken and raw beef to the dude, listening to wheel, handing stuff to dish, and knowing when and how to hand it to him because I used to be dish. So hot and sharp stuff, you get it, But I became good enough at the Wind to train a whole new crew that came in to wipe out. I saw a crazy turnover from old guys to young guys. In the year that I was there, I saw them go from 5 middle-aged cooks to 1 middle-aged cook, me, and a bunch of high schoolers. Well, they had just graduated, and they were all friends, and this was like their first collective job. It was a bizarre kitchen takeover. Okay, so there's a dude, my transition from dish onto the line. There's like a dude who's 6'2", and he walks up to me. I can tell he's super young, but imposing. And he walks up to me, and he goes, yeah. And I'm washing dishes. And in my head, I just go, oh no. Oh no. Like, who did they just hire? Who do I have to train today? Shout out to Trey. Trey is somebody that became the dishwasher as I became the line cook. And one time, one of the line cooks said, hey, could you go to the basement and get me, like, a bucket and a mop? And Trey spent, like, I don't know how many minutes, like, several minutes outside, probably 15, circling the whole location, looking for the entrance to the basement. And he was so confused. And there's no basement it's just a flat compound. There's literally no basement. And he was just, very, very gullible like that. But that's the last job that I plan on talking about before moving on to my next topic, which is somewhat of a divisive topic. Man, I wanted to talk about guns, dude. For example, there was a shooting here in my hometown a couple nights ago by a 16-year-old who just shot somebody in a conflict. And a 14-year-old next to him pulled a knife. Now, these are not acts that we want performed by our youth here in my hometown. I understand how they can acquire a knife, but as far as a firearm, that one is difficult. And it was just right downtown. Several shootings in my hometown. There was a shooting in which a bullet went into a room that a baby was sleeping. That happened right after the shooting downtown. My neighbor, who shot the bullet through my apartment, really close to me. What came to mind is that I feel straight off right off the bat, that the age should definitely be 21 nationwide. Why is it not? I might ask. Also, a question that was raised in my mind is why, what, where, and how? Why are there only training classes and courses for a carry license and not for any other ownership of a gun? Home defense, hunting, what else would you use it for? Carry, hunting, or home defense. For us civilians, are those not the three options, three and only options? Because I think legally that's kind of it. So 21. And how about some training courses for everybody? Whether it's carry, hunting, or home defense. Everybody should be able to prove that they are trained and able to own and purchase a legal firearm. I don't feel that is unreasonable to ask. 2-week courses. If you're going to buy a shotty, you got to spend 2 weeks with it with an expert official right there by your side, watching you for a solid, 2 weeks business days. Carry hunting, same thing. Even better, combine said program, training program, and hand it over to veterans. Make use of the veterans. I personally say put them to good use and work and protection. Dude, it is protection from the vets. If you used veterans 50s to 70s, whatever. Fine. Even go 40s. 30s. Okay. Are they not the experts? Because a police officer can go his whole career without discharging his firearm. I am very passionate about that. I feel a fire about it, and I want to see it happen. Dude, I have such love for veterans of this country. Now, I'm going to say that there's two that I've come into close proximity with through my film school. You got Jeff and you got Josh. Now, my introductions to both of them were rough. I did not like them up front. I remember this. And this has happened with a couple other vets at different times. But that feeling that I had initially when meeting specifically Jeff and Josh. Jeff at the beginning of film school and Josh at the end of film school. Two different veterans who were retired and probably 10 years apart, but very similar. Josh could have played Jeff in a movie where you have a young soldier and his older self. Because when I met both of them, I didn't like them, as I mentioned, but I didn't know that they were vets. Then when I found out that they were vets, my heart did a total 180 to them. And I felt urged to go out of my way to talk to them, to relate to them, to make them laugh. I remember every single time that I made Jeff or Josh laugh. Every single time. And at least Jeff, since I met him in 2014, I have approached him, shaken his hand either in person or I've texted him on Veterans Day specifically to thank him. I think Jeff is one of the best dudes I've ever met. And I only knew Josh for a summer that I was at the camp. In their own right, both had equal impact on me. And are firm Christians, much firmer than I. You know, I think What? I think getting to know at least two veterans personally has felt like all I can handle right there. I think it would be an honor to get to know more. Are they not the ones to have experienced the most extreme things out of all of us? And I have always felt a lot for them. So, but I think I'm going to end the podcast there and give you guys a part 2 next Monday. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please share some of your own job stories with me in the comments. Maybe not the ones you have now, but I have plenty more stories and jobs to talk about. So, stay tuned. Bye.